Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. And yes, I am the host of the State of the Saints podcast. Thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Really do appreciate your time. Shouts out to everybody in the chat. Shouts out to everybody listening, no matter where you are, wherever you may be. Today, we're going to be talking about quarterback Andy Dalton and Dennis Allen's decision to roll with the rifle once again, going into a game in Week 11 versus the Los Angeles Rams. And what does this actually mean? We're also going to be talking about running back David Johnson signing with the New Orleans Saints, something that should have happened a little bit earlier in the season, or maybe even before the season started. But shouts out once again to everybody in the chat. And if you're new to the State of the Saints podcast, we're pretty interactive here. So if you have a question or you have a comment, feel free to put it down in the comments. We're not like one of those shows you have to donate, and that's the reason how you get seen. Like, we pretty much are pretty active here, and we take a lot of pride in that. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Andy Dalton. Look, we all know Andy Dalton has been starting for the last several weeks since Jameis Winston went down. 4 fractures in his back, has a ruptured tendon in his foot. He hasn't been 100% since that time, since Week 1 versus the Atlanta Falcons. Shouts out to Jameis, one of one, who was kind enough to be a part of the show on yesterday. We talked a little bit to him about some of the things that Jameis Winston has endured and also getting his perspective on that. But Andy Dalton has been the starting quarterback of the New Orleans Saints for the last couple of weeks, and it's been up and down. I mean, and honestly, for the last couple of weeks, it's really been down. The only thing that you can honestly say about Andy Dalton is that he shows up. Like he put his jersey on, he's able to throw the football around. He's not wowing anybody with his arm talent. He's not making any throws that just make you just fall out of your seat. And he's definitely not doing enough to help the Saints win some of these games. But look, Andy Dalton is the likely solution. I know some people are upset and they're mad that Andy Dalton is starting, but we all know that Jameis Winston is not 100%. And you look at the Saints offensive line, you look at Andrews, who's replacing Eric McCoy. You look at Kelvin Throckmorton. I mean, you look at Lewis Kidd. I mean, a bunch of JV guys basically playing on the offensive line. And I would not want Jameis Winston, who is dealing with a ruptured tendon in his foot, to have to go out there because he's going to be running for his life. Some of the people that are probably watching this right now probably would have an appreciation for this example. It's kind of similar to what Archie Manning had to go through when he was the starting quarterback of the Saints. He was running for his life. And I think some people are familiar with that famous clip of Archie Manning running for his life, and a defensive tackle is just grabbing at his jersey and rips it clean off his body. I mean, when you are going up against the Los Angeles Rams, there's only one name that, a lot of people are going to remember, and that's Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald is an incredibly talented guy. He's arguably the greatest defensive tackle to ever play football. And he's definitely the greatest defensive tackle of this generation, or even defensive player of this generation. And then you're asking Jameis Winston to go out there to try to evade the sack from an Aaron Donald on a paper mache line that they have right now. Look, that's not a smart decision. Look, Andy Dalton, for the most part, I mean, I guess he can be able to get the ball out of his hands quick enough, in order to get it to the hands of his receivers. But I wouldn't want Jameis out there anyway. Look, Andy Dalton is who he is at this point. I understand that Saints fans want the team to win, and I get all that. But look, this is not the year, in my honest opinion. This is not the year where the Saints are going to go to the playoffs. This isn't the year the Saints are going to the Super Bowl. This team is what it is. I don't expect anything to change. If the Saints may win some games, make us feel a little good about winning, make us say who that and all that kind of stuff. But this is not a good football team. This is not a well-coached football team. This is a team that basically is trying to get to the end, and hopefully we can try to put some pieces in place where we can be formidable in 2023. So anybody that's upset at Andy Dalton starting, I don't understand why. I don't know what you're expecting. I don't know what you think is going to happen, but I am going to continue to say this, and I will continue to say this until I can no longer say it. Dennis Allen is the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, and as long as Dennis Allen is the head coach of the New Orleans Saints, they're going absolutely nowhere, okay? Because he cannot do the right things in order to put this team in a position to succeed. He has alienated the fan base. He has lied to the fan base. Nobody really trusts him, when it comes to information. He hasn't been transparent. He made it seem like Andy Dalton was his decision versus an injury decision with Jameis Winston. And I understand most likely why he did that, because he probably didn't believe in Jameis that much in the first place. He wanted Andy Dalton to come in, and he thought that Andy Dalton most likely would save the same season and save his coaching career. But just like other mistakes that Dennis Allen has made, I mean, he just made a plumb fool out of himself. And once again, I am completely off the Dennis Allen train. Look, whatever Mickey Loomis and those guys do going into the next season, it's not going to change my mind. Dennis Allen, to me, has manipulated the fan base, has lied to the fan base about injuries, has kind of put our mind at ease. They finally came out and talked about some of the things that Marshawn Lattimore was dealing with 2 broken ribs and a lacerated kidney. So the fact that they tried to say that this guy can come back in 2 to 3 weeks, that's another situation, right? Didn't even put the guy on IR. These are the type of practices that I just feel like as a coach, you should be able to do. You should be able to let everybody know, about the player, even if not, put them on IR, understand what's going on with the team, understand the prognosis so you can make just decisions. I mean, we've seen talented guys like Latavius Murray, get pilfered. You see a guy like Taco Charlton, he got pilfered. I mean, you had Tony Jones Jr., he got pilfered. I mean, it's just stuff like that I see from Dennis Allen just makes me realize that he doesn't have his hand on the pulse of this team. So they can continue to do these things, and you can continue to believe that the Saints are going to turn this season around. But look, I don't want anybody to be disappointed. This is not a team that is worth making the playoffs, and it honestly isn't a team where you should be having your blood pressure up and be frustrated about where this team can go as long as Dennis Allen is the head coach. There's going to have to be some major changes going into the 2023 season. But as of this particular season, we just have to continue to watch the games, hope for the best, and maybe they'll give us a win or two towards the end of the season. But that's my thoughts on Andy Dalton. I'm not surprised that he's starting in a game. Nobody should be shocked that he's starting in a game because of Jameis Winston's injury. But let's go ahead and I'll read some of your comments, and then we'll get into David Johnson and our thoughts on that. He is playing average, shaking my head, and we not getting nowhere. We're not going anywhere, man. At this point, it is to be expected. DA not the coach we expected him to be. So this season just needs to hurry up and get over with if we're going to be able to turn it into something. Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking forward to 2023. I'm not mad at the organization like some people are. I know some people are mad at the organization, but I can't knock them for for trying something that has proven that it works. All right. I mean, you see that all these guys that were on the coaching staff with Sean Payton last season, and the Saints had some injuries, and I'm pretty sure they were looking at it like, well, if we had this guy and that guy, then we probably would have not had to try so hard to make the playoffs, and we probably would have made the playoffs. And then look, I can completely understand that. I'm not knocking them for that. But what I will knock them for, if they double down on the foolishness, if they double down on Dennis Allen, if they double down on the fact that, oh, he's our guy, like it's pretty obvious that, the best thing about all this is the NFC South is just god awful, right? So it basically in 2023, everybody is going to be trying to race to the finish because everybody has issues and everybody has problems. It's not like if you look around the NFC South that somebody else is just head and shoulders above the rest. You look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, more than likely this is going to be Tom Brady's last year. So they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do. Then you have the Carolina Panthers. They have to figure out what they're going to do at the quarterback position and a new head coach. And then you look at also with the Atlanta Falcons, I'm pretty sure they're probably going to roll with Desmond Ridder next year as their starting quarterback. So that's another guy that's going to be in the system that they're going to have to teach and learn. And he's going to have to go through the ebbs and flows. And with the New Orleans Saints, they're pretty much going to be going through the same thing. So you look at this NFC South division and, you just think, okay, next year, if you get yourself a coach that can actually coach, that can actually galvanize a team, and then you get yourself some players and a coaching staff that's going to be offensively innovative, defensively disruptive, and have some players out there that can make some plays, generate some turnovers, you're right back into the thick of things. Then you look at the entire NFC, there's not too many teams out there that you can just look at and be like, man, they're going to be dominant. They're going to be wrecking things. I look at the Minnesota Vikings. I just feel like this is one of those lightning in a bottle years. I don't look at them and say, oh, Minnesota is going to have this sustainable success for years to come because I don't trust Kirk Cousins. Justin Jefferson is incredible. Adam Thielen, he's up there in age, but he still has something to offer. Dalvin Cook, when he's healthy, he's a beast. But as long as they have Kirk Cousins, are you confident that they can be world beaters in the NFC? Aaron Rodgers having a down year. He doesn't have a wide receiver. Do you look at them as being a dominant NFC team? No. So everybody is going through their problems. And next year, if you do the right thing, if you don't double down on this nonsense, you can put yourself in a position where you can be a formidable NFC team and possibly make a deep run in the playoffs. What you don't want to do is continue to set your team back by bringing this guy back here. And the next thing you know, you might be picking in the top 5 for real. You know what I'm saying? That top 5 pick may end up being your own. DA lies one dog while looking like another. Yeah, I'm over him. I'm over it. I would rather Dennis Allen just say, we'll keep you posted. Look at the injury report. We'll print that out for you on Wednesday. I would rather you say something like that. The one thing about Sean Payton, Sean Payton didn't disclose injuries, and that's the nature of the beast. Like, I know some people used to get mad at Sean Payton for not opening up and being transparent about injuries. But at the same time, you can never just say that you caught Sean Payton up on some nonsense about saying, oh, a player going to play and he not going to play, or, oh, we expect him to be out for 2 weeks and he out for 6 to 7 weeks. So that just tells me right there, like, you don't know what the heck going on with your own team. Like, you're not having conversations with these guys. You're not having conversations with the doctors. You're not having conversations with their primary physicians that they appoint, they get themselves, right, to get themselves a second opinion. You're not talking to these people. So with that, like, to me, it's just a bunch of different situations. It's like some people would say, oh, it's about what's going on the field. Yes, that has something to do with it. But it's just the overall scheme of things. Like, it just seems like to me he does not have his pulse on the team. He does not. It's like he don't know what's going on himself, and you're the head coach. So that's why I feel like they need to go in a different direction with somebody that actually understands and knows what's going on. Is going to ask the questions and not just going to be, passive. You can't. It's okay to have a passive, personality at times, but when you're a head coach and a leader of men, it's probably not the best thing to be. It's Huntley from the Ravens. Yeah, if Tyler Huntley is available, I'll definitely pick him up. You know, he's an incredible talent. He's a guy that makes some really good decisions, and I think that he can be a formidable quarterback. Depends on who he aligns himself with. Like, I think that you need an offensive-minded coach or offensive-minded coordinator that's going to be able to reel him in and help him see the field. He's a little raw when it comes to certain situations, but he's a guy that can throw the ball down the field, nice arm. He can extend plays, really good on a rollout. And he's a guy that constantly battles. You know, I've seen a couple games where he started when Lamar Jackson was down with injuries last year, and he did a really good job. And I think that he is good enough to be a starter in this league, at least get opportunity to be a starter. And if you put him in the right position, I think that he will succeed. So if Tyler Huntley was to come to the New Orleans Saints with the coaching staff they have right now, I don't think he would be successful. But if they maybe get a different coordinator, a different coach, a guy that's a quarterback coach, a guy that can kind of help him see the field, I think he can be extremely successful. Look, regardless to if they decide to go with Jameis or if they decide to go out here and get a rookie or get another guy from a team to give him opportunity to be a starter, regardless, I just feel like you need to go in a different direction and add those type of coaches, to the staff, the guys that's going to develop these players and not the guys that we have right now. I just think that it would be a recipe for disaster. Dalton wearing blue and yellow Sunday. Hope not. Let's see. I doubt we get Huntley. I wish, but other teams would pay him more if it came to that. Well, look, I'll tell you this. I look at it this way, right? I'm pretty sure teams will probably pay him, but he is a restricted free agent, right? So if the Saints offer him a contract, Baltimore has to counter offer that, right? So if Baltimore doesn't counter offer that, then he becomes a member of the team that offers him the most money. I don't see Baltimore offering this guy money to be a backup quarterback. And I feel like Baltimore will want this guy to go out here to try to get an opportunity to be a starter. I don't think they're going to stand in the way of that. If you have an opportunity to be a starter and you know for a fact that you're going to be paying Lamar Jackson X amount of dollars to be your quarterback of the future, there's no need for you to hold another guy back for an opportunity to be a starter. Now, I do know that they have some other teams out here that may be looking for quarterbacks, but here's the difference. If you look at the Houston Texans, their draft positioning right now, they're getting the first pick overall. If you're thinking about the Raiders, they're going to be like a third pick, right? Carolina, they're going to be picking in the top 10. So all these teams that have these issues at the quarterback position, they probably can end up drafting their franchise quarterback because this is a deep draft. So it can kind of play into the hands of the New Orleans Saints grabbing a guy like Tyler Huntley because you don't have a first-round draft pick, and some of these teams that's struggling that need a starting quarterback, a franchise quarterback, they're going to get an opportunity to get that very early in the draft. So the more teams that need quarterbacks that's picking in the top 5, the better chances it will be to get a guy like Tyler Huntley. Like if you look at the list, who really needs or looking at for a franchise or a starting quarterback in the future? I mean, I mentioned the Houston Texans. I mean, they got Davis Mills, but I mean, it's not a guarantee that, they're going to pick a quarterback. They may think that Davis Mills is pretty good, and he is. Like he's not the worst quarterback in the world, but if you have a first pick overall, I'm pretty sure you're probably going to roll with a quarterback. Carolina is most likely going to get themselves a young starting quarterback. And like I said, you have the Raiders, you have the Lions. These teams are going to probably end up getting quarterbacks. So around the time in the second round, unless Hendon Hooker or somebody else out there that you are confident about is there. If they're not, you can have that option to go get Tyler Huntley. So I think that it works in the Saints' favor. I think that I don't think that he's going to be asking for an arm and a leg because, even though he's had some starts, he still hasn't proven himself as a consistent starter in the league. So it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. And if it does work out, then hell, you're probably going to sign him to a 2 or 3 year deal. So that's 2 or 3 years worth of prosperity that you can have, and you can build some, build around him in order for your team to be a playoff contender. May as well get a college guy. And I'm curious if the guy TJ has brought up. Look, I'm a big advocate for Grayson McCall because I feel like Grayson is going to end up falling to the second round. He's a guy that can easily, like if he has a good combine, could easily be in the first round. He's a guy that has, he can make all the throws. He's a guy that can improvise, and he's a gamer. You know what I'm saying? Like he just like I feel like with Tyler Huntley, he a little bit raw. I would be very skeptical about putting him on the field early in a career. I don't feel like he's a first day starter. But if you get yourself somebody like a bridge quarterback, and maybe like around, let's just say if they start struggling around week 4, week 5, you can probably bring a guy like McCall in and let him kind of go through the motions. I think you're going to win some games with him. And I definitely think that in the right situation, if you develop this dude, he can be like one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. Like I really feel like he has that in him because he's a leader. He's a guy that never gives up. He's a guy that his teammates love him. And there's a reason why Isaiah Likely got to the NFL. Guess who was throwing Isaiah Likely those passes? I mean, it was Grayson McCall. So I like him a lot. And like I said, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be there for you in the second round. I know that people mention Hendon Hooker, but look, the way Hendon Hooker has played, the way that he is, the decision making that he's made, and I think if you can add that with a pro day and a combine, there's nowhere in the world this dude doesn't go in the first round. If he does not go in the first round, there's something like totally wrong with the quarterback evaluation from these NFL teams because this dude is talented. Hire Prime and bring the culture back. You're not going to hire Deion Sanders because, once again, Deion Sanders does not want to coach in the NFL. He said it on the 60-minute interview that he has no interest in coaching in the NFL because he said he just does not understand if a player is making millions of dollars, why they wouldn't want to do everything they can and within their power to be great. He said, I'll be getting in fights with professionals every single day for them not going the extra mile and trying to, be great. He said he has a problem with that. So he wants to coach on a college level. So not going to happen. Will Smith and Tom Benson and Sam Mills turn over in his grave right now. Dennis Allen trash and Andy Dalton trash. Say it like Bubba Duck. Well, look, I feel like this, Justin. Man, I'm not a fan of Andy. I mean, I'm not a fan of Dennis Allen, which you already know. Andy Dalton is Andy Dalton. Like look. Andy Dalton is who he is. Like I don't understand. Like people thought he was going to thrust him into the lineup and he was just going to be Patrick Mahomes or something. Like the dude is not that good. Like he's average. He's been average his entire career, and now he's older, so he's going to be below average or average. So I don't get it. Like at this particular point, like it makes no sense going at Andy Dalton. No sense whatsoever. Like he is who he is. But as far as Dennis Allen had an opportunity to change the narrative about himself when it comes to head coaching, and he has fallen flat on his face yet again, just like he did in Oakland. Man, honestly, I have nothing for this dude. Like seriously, I have nothing for this dude. I just don't know what to say. I'm just not a fan. Like all the things that has happened this season, the things that he's done this season, as far as like, how he making the fan base feel, his handling of like certain situations with players, I don't see how anybody can still be high on this dude. Like it's way more than just injuries to me. It's way more than that. Like some people want to justify his terrible start as the Saints coach with injuries. But once again, when you had the majority of your starters early in the season, you still was looking like trash. Like your team still wasn't that good, right? It wasn't like, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry was in the lineup and we was beating people by 30 and 40. I mean, they still were struggling. Like it took a Herculean effort by Jameis Winston in the offense in the fourth quarter against Atlanta in order for them to win that football game, right? You know what I'm saying? The only impressive win that they have is against the Raiders. But when you think about it, like how impressive was that? Like Josh McDaniel is just as trash as he is. Like they both awful. They're both awful. They're both second chance guys that are having a really bad outing of it. I mean, you look at the Raiders. The Raiders were a playoff team last year, right? They went to the playoffs. They lost to the Bengals, first round wild card, but they were in the playoffs. The Saints were a a Rams win away from the playoffs, and they had 57 different variations of a starting lineup. So it's hard for me to accept the fact that Dennis Allen can't get this team to play, even though they're dealing with some injuries. I just think that he's just not that good. He's not a good coach. So, I mean, why are we wasting our time trying to make this dude something that he's not? The Saints have moved on from Jameis after the interview and throwing DA under the bus. Now, DA threw himself under the bus. He threw himself under the bus from lying. I mean, you're going to make the quarterback change and then tell everybody that Jameis is 100%, and he wasn't. Then, you talked about Michael Thomas. Oh, do you expect Michael Thomas to be back? Or I expect for him to be back. And then all of a sudden, a week later, he's on IR. Marshawn Lattimore, he fell on his side. He should be back in the next couple of weeks. The dude has a lacerated kidney and 2 broken ribs. Like, what are we doing here? Like, nobody is making this dude go to the podium and say these things. And if they are, then shame on them. But he should be smart enough to know that, man, this is going to make me look like a complete moron and disingenuous and a liar. And it has. So anybody talking about who throwing whoever under the bus, like, no, DA threw himself under the bus. He throws himself under the bus by every single week for the last 2 weeks, getting out-coached and not having your team prepared and have these guys mentally focused and mentally ready and having these guys with the best game plan possible in order for them to be formidable. Even though, look, we can all agree that the last 2 weeks of these last 2 games, the Saints look like trash, right? I mean, some of the points and the scores may indicate, the game was competitive, but we all know it wasn't. And we all know what that comes down to. I mean, when you have the holding penalties, the pass interference calls, when you have more penalties than first downs in games, who am I supposed to look at? Who is supposed to be coaching this stuff and putting emphasis on it? He's not. So I just don't understand that. Look, I get it. We want to justify it. We want to argue, it ain't this fault. Man, look, Dennis Allen is trash. He's not a good head coach. I don't care what anybody says. There's not a human being on the face of God's green earth that can convince me that this dude a good head coach. Not one. You can come up with any type of scenario, any type of situation. You wasting your time. I know what good coaching look like. We've all seen it for 15 years. Heck, you know what I'm saying? You can look at Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying? You know what good coaching is. New England. You know what I'm saying? Good coaches. You know what good coaching look like. And this ain't it. So I don't understand it. Like, why are we trying to make this dude work? It ain't working. But, I mean, you can continue to do that. But once again, all that's going to happen is when they start, going down this downward spiral, ticket sales going to go down, merchandise sales going to go down. People are not going to be interested in the product. You have introduced Saints fans to prosperity. You have introduced them to a winning culture. And nobody wants to go back to the dreadful days of 94 and 95, or when Ricky Williams was here and Mike Dicker was here. Nobody wants to go back to those times. So don't try to convince us or try to sell us on somebody that's not going to give us the results that we want. Like that's all there is to it. Like don't sell. You can't sell that to me because the dude is not good. He is not a good coach. Like I don't understand how some people just want to sit up here why are you wasting your time trying to make this dude work? It's obvious that he doesn't. And since Dalton was always throwing to the wrong uniform color, nothing has changed. Well, like I said, I mean, he had moments, right? I can remember games where he had 4 touchdowns, 300 plus yards and stuff like that, lit it up. And then he had games where, he didn't play so well. I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, he was always average. I don't know what people's definition of average is, but I just think that sometimes when we evaluate quarterbacks, we look at guys like Mahomes, we look at guys like Josh Allen, we look at guys like Rodgers, and we okay, you know what I'm saying? If he ain't looking like that, then he's not a good quarterback. But that's not true. Those guys are special in their own right. I mean, there's probably maybe one other person in the entire NFL that can make some of the throws that Patrick Mahomes made. There was one pass that Patrick Mahomes made. It was against the New Orleans Saints. And some of y'all probably remember this. He rolled out to his left. And he threw the ball to the back corner of the end zone. Like, you know, like it was just like where he threw the ball at, it was like, it's rather you gonna catch it right here. If I was to throw it over here, you would have been out of bounds. He threw that ball directly to Nico Hartman. And you know what I'm saying? Like, and you can look at like the Saints defenders, they just, you know what I'm saying? They just hunch their shoulder like, man, look, he the only person that gonna make that. That was great coverage. Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like guarding Steph Curry, you know what I'm saying, when on a three-point shot. Like, you know he gonna make it, you know, like more times than not. So just because a guy doesn't possess those certain skills don't mean that they're not good enough. You know, like Andy Dalton carved out a good career for himself in Cincinnati, you know, playing, you know what I'm saying, average, a little bit above average at times. So, and the worst thing I think people can say is, "Oh, you can't win with that." Man, come on, man. How many times have we seen guys go to the Super Bowl, average quarterbacks, still hoisting that Lombardi trophy? Joe Flacco. I mean, this may be controversial, but Eli Manning. I mean, come on, man. Like Nick Foles, average quarterbacks leading their teams to victory. So all this stuff about, oh, man, you got to be Mahomes. Mahomes got one Super Bowl, been there twice. Josh Allen ain't never been to the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers, one Super Bowl. So all that quarterback talent that y'all talking about, yeah, it's all great. But when it's time for, you know, crunch time, like where are these guys at? Are they showing up? Or are the team stepping up? So there it is. Hope DAP Carmichael or Andy is going next season. Yeah, me too. In just 9 weeks, Dennis Allen has destroyed what took 16 years to build up, which is amazing, by the way. If we trash in a football game, just imagine how trash the practices are. That's who knows? You know what I'm saying? Maybe the practices aren't trash. Maybe the practices aren't trash. You know, maybe that's probably the issue. Not trash to them, because I mean they basically, you know, playing up to their competition or playing down to their competition, depends. What's good, TJ, man? I wouldn't want Jameis back there without a backup O-line. Dude would get killed back there. This season started off bad, and DA couldn't get it back on track. Yeah, look, I mean, that's Derek. That's probably the issue that, or the solution that they came up with. Like it wouldn't make any sense to have Jameis Winston back there with all the ailments that he has. So you might as well go into the game with the quarterback that's more able-bodied. Now, I think if you start getting some guys back, maybe, you know, Andrews Pete comes back. I don't think Eric McCoy, he not coming back. If look, I know they say IR supposed to be like 4 weeks. Look, big man, go ahead and rest yourself up, man. We need you next season. You know what I'm saying? Like, no need for you to come out here and re-aggravate something, and, you know what I'm saying, miss an opportunity to take your wife to Cancun or something. You know, like, if you hurt, then go ahead and, you know, there ain't no playoff implications on the line. Like, go ahead and rest yourself up. We gonna need you next season, man. But if you have some other guys that's coming back on the offensive line, you know, then I say what next week. You know, I say start him. I start him next week. You know, if you're not going up against Aaron Donald, like that definitely wouldn't be a game that I would want to come back on. Josh McDaniel and the Raiders are so bad that they got their quarterback Derek Carr fighting back tears at post-game press conference. Yeah, man. I mean, it's pretty bad out there in Las Vegas. You know, Las Vegas, they are a brand new franchise technically. I mean, they only been out maybe like 3 years, right, as the Vegas Raiders. And I mean, it's a beautiful stadium. I had an opportunity to go to Vegas a couple months ago. Was able to see what they call the Death Star. Nice stadium, man. I mean, you know, and there's a lot of people out there, you know, that want this team to succeed. I know the NFL wants them to succeed, but, you know, Josh McDaniel, to me, I mean, look, it's just not working. It's just not working. So, and, you know, I feel bad for the Raiders because, you know, Gruden kind of had them going in the right direction. We may not want to admit that, and I know that he left in controversial fashion, but I mean, he had them boys looking pretty good. I mean, they were drafting pretty well, and they had some talent out there on that team. But now it's like they're a mere shell of themselves. So some of the things that they did to take a step forward, Josh McDaniel has allowed them to take a step back. And I think that he might end up surviving, you know, at the end of the season. I do. The excuses of Jameis being 100% is BS. His ACL wasn't 100% week one, to be honest. Let's keep it a buck. Dennis want Andy as quarterback. I just kind of felt that way. I always felt that way. I still feel that way. And even though the Saints did some things that may have looked as if, they had his best interest at heart, it was mostly about them trying to do some things to make themselves look good. After that whole, to me, the whole Honey Badger, Jarvis Landry situation, when I think about it, I think that was almost like an olive branch to the Who Dat Nation. Like, seriously, because the biggest question that was on everybody's mind throughout the years with Sean Payton was, why don't we go after LSU players? Why don't we get LSU players on the team? So I just feel like when the whole Deshaun Watson situation came out, you kind of alienated your fan base. You had a lot of people ticked off because they felt like it was an insult. You even trying to go after this dude anyway, the way that he was making them feel. Shouts out to Maddie, her expressing her stories. And you had all these different women in sports, media talking about some of the things that they had endured. You had women that were sports fans talking about some of the things that they endured. And it just was not a good look. And you had a lot of members of the Who Dat Nation ticked off, to say the audacity of you trying to go after this guy. So I feel like by them saying, I'm sorry, okay, we're going to go out here, we're going to get two of the most renowned and well-known LSU Tigers that everybody loves in the state of Louisiana, and all LSU Tiger fans all over. So I feel like that was a little bit of an olive branch there. I don't think that had much to do with Jameis Winston at all. Yeah, they want to win, but I just think that was more like, I'm sorry, here y'all go. We never do these type of things. So, and because once they did that, you didn't really have too many people talking about Deshaun Watson after that. So I think it was more about their interest than actually the team's interest. I mean, you brought Andy Dalton in here because for the first, Jameis Winston is known as being a mistake maker, and they probably thought, well, the first line of trouble that we get into, we can always go to Andy. He pretty sure-handed, so to speak. But as you can see, I mean, he's not really that sure-handed. Omar, thank you very much for the $4.99. Says time to start the rebuild, get the books right, and plan for Caleb Williams or another young draft prospect in 2024. The writing is on the wall. Look, as long as the New Orleans Saints are the New Orleans Saints and they have Mickey Loomis as a GM, they never gonna go into rebuild mode. They just not. That's just not who they are. They're not going to do that. They're going to try to be a formidable team. And look, it's not, once again, I said this earlier, it's not like everybody in the division is better than the New Orleans Saints. Like every team in this division is equally terrible. They're equally terrible. They're all bad. So we're all trying to find ways to try to improve, our teams, right? In the South. So it's not like to me, I ask everybody this question that's talking about blowing it up. All right. This is the question I have for you. All right. And if you feel like they need to blow it up after this, then feel free to do so. But if you had a coach, let's just say like Sean Payton, or somebody that actually knew something about some coaching, that actually coach a team, do you really feel like the Saints would be 3-7 right now with the roster that they have? Do you feel the Saints would have been 3-7? I don't think so. I think that's the question that we have to ask ourselves. Now, do you need to get better at certain skill positions? Absolutely. But there's a lot of teams, even if they're winning, they probably would say the same thing. So, yes, what I'm saying, you need to improve at the safety position, maybe get yourself a linebacker. Depends on if DeMarco Jackson works out when he comes back next year, guy at Appalachian State who was a tackling machine. But you find other pieces to add on to what you already have. Me personally, I feel like if the Saints had a different head coach, we wouldn't be in this position right now. All of the incompetence and ineptitude of this team falls directly at the feet of Dennis Allen. And it's just hard for me to believe that if this was a Sean Payton coach team, or if let's just say, for example, if the Saints hired Brian Flores or something like this, it's hard for me to believe that this team would have ended up being 3-7. They should have tied. I don't know exactly what we're talking about there. They get LSU players when it's time for them to retire. Barbara, you really cold. I love it. To the moon they go. How much draft capital do you think we can get for a Sean Payton trade? I think that you can get a first round pick. I think that you can get multiple first round picks. And hear me out. I know we are all going through the motions. I know we all upset. I know we all ticked off. But here's the reality. As bad as Dennis Allen has this team, the better it makes Sean Payton look. And the more desperate a team is going to be to pursue Sean Payton. Because the New Orleans Saints have the same exact coaching staff that they had last year, minus Sean Payton. So what's that telling the entire NFL right now? What's that telling a struggling team that wants a head coach? Man, you know what I'm saying? This team really fell off. Only thing that's missing is Sean. Sean is the guy that really had his hand on the pulse of the organization. So we may not like this, but the more inept the team look, as bad as they look week after week, it's making Sean Payton look like the coaching guru. So it's going to make him even more appealing, and it's going to make a team even more desperate to pursue him. So I put it like this. The Saints aren't going to make the playoffs. Sean Payton wants to come back into the league, never really wanted to leave. So he can say, oh, man, I'm loving TV, this, that, and the third, whatever. But if he comes back, the Saints can get a first-round draft pick. Now, it's not going to be a top 10 or something like that. Or maybe it will. It depends on who they decide. You know, who decides. Like, I don't know if he'll want to go to the Houston Texans. You know, I don't know if he'll want to do something like that. But, you know, a team that's probably picking in the top 15, let's just say the Chargers, right? They picking in the top 15. You may not get the 4th or the 5th pick, but you can get a 15 or a 16th pick, and I'll take that, right? I mean, the biggest issue was, we didn't have a first-round pick. So if we can get a first-round pick from the Chargers at 15, at least we picking in the first round, and you still have a strong chance to be able to use that to maybe, combine a draft pick or something like that to move up to get the quarterback that you want. So the more the Saints look as terrible as they've been, the more appealing it's going to be for Sean Payton. And a better chance the Saints are going to get at getting a first-round pick. It's just that simple. And like I said, I keep on looking at the Chargers, and I keep on saying this, and I apologize to people that follows the show consistently, but the Chargers are the most likely spot because at this particular point, there really is no need at any of their skill positions. Now, you can add on to it, right? But they're not in desperate need of a first-round draft pick. They don't need a quarterback. They got one. They don't need a running back. They got one. They don't need a pass rush. They got one. They got two if you want to add Khalil Mack. You got leaders in the secondary. You just paid J.C. Jackson. You got Derwin James. You got all these different guys. So this team right now, to me, is ready to take on the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC West. All they need is somebody that's going to be able to bring it out of these players. And I'm pretty sure that the owner of the Chargers probably feel the same way. So if he can call up Mickey Loomis and say, man, we'll offer you our first-round draft pick this year and maybe our first-round pick next year in order for us to acquire Sean Payton. You don't think the Saints going to take that? You don't have to worry about playing Sean Payton unless you play him every 4 years when you play the AFC West. So you don't have to worry about him being in NFC when you have to play him every other year versus, every 4 years. So it seemed like it works out for everybody. That's my whole point, So I say, as bad as this is, if it continues to look this way, the better chances the Saints to be able to get their first round pick back. They tanking for nothing. I don't think they tanking, Bowles. I don't think they tanking at all. I just think that they're not very good. They're not very good. I don't think. I feel like the Saints going to games wanting to win, but they just not good enough. Not at this point. The salary cap juggling and willing to deal to win with Breeze has finally caught up to us, bro. Plain and simple. No, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. Like I said before, if you had a different coach on this team, we would not be having this conversation. Everybody feels the way that they feel right now because this team is losing. So we try to find reasons as to why. Man, the Saints have been playing for years, with the salary cap. This isn't happened just last year. and we kept on like kicking the can down the road. No, man, all this to me, and they're going to have to prove this. They're going to have to prove this to me. If the Saints go and they get themselves another head coach next year and they fall and they're in the same predicament, then I will concede to this point. But I do not believe that if you look around the Saints roster, you're going to convince me and tell me that, oh, it's because they've been dealing with these salaries all these years. This had absolutely nothing to do with it. If anything, it's their arrogance that got them to this point. They're feeling like, oh, we can find ourselves another Marcus Williams, or we can find ourselves another C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Like that's the type of stuff that'll get you beat. You know, you being arrogant. Oh, we're gonna hire Dennis Allen because we're gonna keep the same thing and we're gonna run this thing back. Like not accounting for how great Sean Payton is, not accounting for how much of a ball hog Marcus Williams is, not accounting for how galvanizing a C.J. Gardner-Johnson is. Those type of decisions is what's getting you beat. It's not so much about the contracts. It's the arrogance to feel like, oh, we can just do this with anybody. The false sense of reality that the Saints have been dealing with this offseason is amazing. And I have to be honest with you, the false sense of reality that they have given us as a fan base, I got to give them a round of applause because they all had us fooled. They all had us believing that Dennis Allen, with his old no coaching tail, is going to be able to bring this team to the promised land. I mean, seriously, man, like, I mean, that's the greatest Jedi mind trick, in my opinion. Like, more than any contract, any kicking a can down the road analogy that you can use. The fact is, I just feel like the whole, Jedi mind trick that they put on the entire New Orleans Saints fan base is amazing. Like, I applaud them for that. But they finessed the hell out of us. For real. That's the biggest issue, Charles. If you want to be honest with you. That is the reality of it. They completely fooled everybody. They completely fooled everybody. So the Saints went from making the playoffs to missing the playoff. Thank you, Dennis, you big dummy. Well, they didn't make the playoffs last year, Jerry. I'll give them that, but it was more of a scenario-based thing. But I get what you're saying. Like last year, the Saints were in it. This year, like they ain't got no part of it. Like they ain't sniffing the playoffs. I get it, but yes, he definitely has had a tough outing. Sean Payton deserves some of the blame for not drafting Drew's replacement and telling Mickey Loomis that they should hire Dennis Allen. Yeah, but at the same time, Paul, let's just be real about this. If you have a friend, right? If you have a friend that needs a job, right? I mean, you might recommend a guy, but let's just say, for example, if you recommend them to me, I mean, you can recommend them, but it's up to me to make that decision. Or better yet, let's just say I have a friend. I'll make you the boss. Hey man, I got this friend, you know what I'm saying? He's pretty good, like he can do this, that, and the third. It's up to you to make that decision. It's not up to me, so he can recommend this, but at the same time, it's up to Mickey Loomis to make sure that that's the best decision. Just because it's Sean Payton and he your buddy don't mean that he knows what he's talking about all the time. You got to trust your gut at times. So I say this lay at the feet of Mickey Loomis more so than Sean Payton, because the GM responsibility is to get the best players on the field, the best coaches inside the organization. That is what he's supposed to do. Now, especially if you don't have a head coach. Now, if you have a head coach, it's his decision. You know what I'm saying? It was Sean Payton's decision to get Greg Williams back in the day. It was his decision to bring back Dennis Allen. When you have a head coach, it's his decision. But when the head coach leaves or you don't have a head coach, it's up to you to be able to hire, the next guy. It's up to you. You know what I'm saying? So he should have did his due diligence. But I just think that it's almost like the rest of those dudes was basically just it was like a preliminary thing, right? Like, okay, man, we're going to bring them on in, Rooney Rule, whatever. Okay, I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to act like I'm interested, but in reality, I already know what I'm going to do in the back of my mind. But at the same time, you had opportunity probably to listen at some of these other guys that's probably giving you better information, probably, listening to them could have showed you that they were a better leader of men, better planner, better organizer, better galvanizer. But instead, in the back of your mind, you're like, man, this is, this preliminary. Like, okay, all right, bring on Dennis. Like, to me, once again, it all goes back to the arrogance of this team. They did not account for the loss of Sean Payton, and they definitely didn't account at the loss that some of these players that they're suffering for not bringing back. Like, I don't understand this. Like, as far as the safety position, I just don't understand it. Like, how many safeties have the Saints let go and they go to other teams and they play outstanding? Like, go back with Malcolm Jenkins. Like, Malcolm Jenkins, when he first came to the Saints, like, we all had our gripes with him. Oh, he had a tackling issue. He had a toughness issue. He goes to Philly for 6 years, and he's like the undisputed leader of the team. He went 6 years without missing a game. You bring him back, and he gave you production in those last 2 years that he had. I mean, you have Kenny Vaccaro. Kenny Vaccaro had a really good rookie season before he broke his leg. He came back, you know what I'm saying? He was a tough guy, big physical guy. What, you know what I'm saying? Get lost in coverage from time. But you let him go. He goes to Tennessee, and he's catching an interception to seal the game against New England. Like, what were we talking about here? I mean, C.J. Gardner-Johnson leading the NFL in interceptions. Marcus Williams was leading the league in interceptions before he got hurt with a dislocated wrist. So how many times do you need to see the same thing happen to you over and over again for you adjust? That, I mean, I'm just wondering to myself, like, it's baffling. Like, it's baffling the way that the New Orleans Saints just don't learn from the mistakes that they made. And it's amazing to me how arrogant they gotten, not realizing that, hey, bro, you can easily slip back into being in the dark ages of the 90s, you know what I'm saying, the late 90s. You can easily do that because, ladies and gentlemen, some of you are probably new to this, but some of us are true to this. It's looking like it. And I know some people are excited about, the New Orleans Saints and they wearing their throwback jersey, but to me, I feel like it's apropos. Seriously. Like, as trash as they've been playing this season, they might as well put those uniforms on. Like, I understand people excited, but those uniforms don't bring back nostalgia for me. Not good nostalgia. Now, some of y'all probably excited, oh, it's a different uniform I ain't never really seen before. Cool. But when I look at them mustard uniforms, you know what I see? I can remember, dudes getting beaten coverage, couldn't tackle a mat problem, couldn't throw a party if it was his own birthday. So I feel like, it's just for them to rock them throwback jerseys. Because the way they've been playing just reminds me of that teams back in the day. And don't get it mistaken. If they continue to go down this road, they will find themselves in the same position, even worse, next year. So they got opportunity to learn from their mistakes. Will they double down on their mistakes is the question. I hope not. But before we get up out of here, I got to mention this. I got to talk about David Johnson. David Johnson signs with the New Orleans Saints. He will be on the practice squad. I'm pretty sure they're probably going to activate him for this game. David Johnson is 30 years old. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. He went to Northern Iowa. He was drafted in the third round back in 2015. He was a second team All-Pro back in 2016. He had that magical season with rushing and catching the ball out of the backfield for the Arizona Cardinals. Really talented guy, ended up breaking his wrist, really setting him back. He was with the team for the offseason, but for some apparent reason, they couldn't get the negotiation straight. He wanted a certain amount of money. The Saints didn't want to give it to him, so therefore he went out there on the streets. I don't think he got picked up by any team, if I'm not mistaken, so the Saints brought him back in. He passed his physical, and now he's a part of the team. Throughout his career, David Johnson has 4,047 yards. He averages 4.1 yards a carry. He has 39 rushing touchdowns. He has 273 receptions for 2,758 yards, 18 touchdowns receiving. He also has return yards of 622, and he also returned one for a touchdown. So David Johnson, I'm pretty sure some people are familiar with him. He's a big physical guy, 6'1", 224. He's a guy that, he definitely can carry that load. He definitely can help out Alvin Kamara. He definitely can do some of the things that Alvin Kamara do when it comes to catching the ball out of the backfield. He's no stranger to that. And I think that he'll be a good fit. Unfortunately, this transaction happened a little bit too late into the season. You should have been thinking about that during the time when Alvin Kamara messed up his ribs. I think that you probably would have had David Johnson. He probably would have been able to give you some production, so much so that I feel like maybe Alvin Kamara could have probably rested and been available for you down the stretch, and he could have been completely 100%. But I mean, better late than never. I mean, he talked to the media. He said that he wanted to come in and try to help the team. And I like David Johnson a lot, even though he's had some injuries in years past. It had nothing to do with his lower extremities. No ankle injury, no knee injuries, no hamstring injuries or anything like that. So besides like some of those injuries to his wrist that kept him out of football for a year and had him sitting out on IR, he still has enough tread on the tire. He was a featured back for a while when he was in Arizona. And then all of a sudden, they brought some more guys in to kind of alleviate some of the running duties. So he still has some tread on the tire. And I'm not saying that he's going to go out there and run for 150 yards right now. But if you ask David Johnson to go out there and make some plays or try to move the chains, I definitely feel like he's definitely capable of doing that. So Saints signed, once again, David Johnson to their practice squad. And I'm pretty sure more than likely, depends, they're probably going to have him taking some snaps in the game versus the Rams. Or the Saints can go back to the days of the fans coming to the Superdome wearing paper bags on their head and faces as possible. Well, Tony, look, I don't think nobody around this thing wearing no paper bags. I'm not. If somebody decides to do that, like like Bobby Brown, that's your prerogative. But as for me, I'm a Saints fan, and I'm not a conditional Saints fan. Like I love this team regardless, and I think you should too. But if you want to wear a paper bag, then fine. Go wear a paper bag and do whatever you want to do. But as for me, I'm gonna continue to root for this team because anybody can root for a team when they win. Anybody can front run and grandstand and all that kind of stuff there. But it takes a special fan, to love a team, unconditionally. It takes a special fan to be able to look past some of the Saints, imperfections and still be able to say who that with a lot of emphatically with confidence. And that's one of the fans that I am. So they can wear whatever they want. Not going to stop me. I know 95% of y'all don't read. I don't know what read means. Let's see. But AK-41 take care of his body so he'll be okay wherever he goes or when he gets back. Let's see. The Saints won't use him. They will keep him on the practice squad until another team steals him. I hope not. But, I mean, we all seen that they did that before. TJ, you got to soften up on your chat settings. So many comments get held for review and don't need to be held for review. Well, I ain't really got much to do with that, man. And honestly, the chat goes so fast. The chat goes so fast. I mean, I don't know who in review. I don't know. So I apologize for that. But I can't. I'm not going to read everybody's comments. And also, what I'm saying, if I see people's comments, sometimes, it might pop up the same person over and over again. But I want to give other people respect too and get, read their comments as well. So I don't know about, chat being a review. I don't know. I want to believe that there's a logical explanation for that. We'll see. Bro, people used to put tickets on the windshield of their cars. Shaking my head. Real Saints fans don't wear paper bags, point blank. My pride won't allow me. Exactly. I know 95% of y'all don't rewatch games or even remember the games after they played. But rewatch the highlights of the first 3 games. Jameis wasn't the problem at all. Jerry, I agree with that. Like the Saints got to win because of Jameis Winston. And like I say, man, I don't want anybody to believe this. I never had a problem with him. You know what I'm saying? Me personally, when they make decisions, it's like I already know there's nothing I can do, and I just feel like yelling and screaming and all that kind of stuff is not going to change the minds of the organization and what they feel like they're going to do. So at the end of the day, it's pointless. And honestly, Jerry, I know you want him to be out there, but after everything that from everything that he said, from everything, I don't know if you checked out Jameis 101 yesterday, everything he said, I mean, I wouldn't want him to be out there either. I don't want him to be out there at this point. But yeah, I mean, he did some good things, and you only can wonder like if he was more able-bodied, would he be able to do even more? I'm standing for my black and gold. I'm just not supporting them with buying merch. Nah, I'm good on that too. They got to show me something before I start spending something. You know what I'm saying? No bag for me. Wore Swagman bags back then. Never again. I'm who that loud and proud. Don't worry about the Saints. They'll be all right. Can we get through an episode without some dude bringing up bag heads? That was decades ago and under extreme, unique circumstances. Please and thank you. You know, a lot of people, when they start talking about those bags, you know, a lot of young fans, they probably didn't understand the significance of the bag, and they, now they just, I don't know, man. Most people that been following this team, probably during the time when the bags were more of a relevant thing, like, they ain't trying to think about that, because here's the reality. As bad as people think that the Saints are right now, they were even worse back in the days when they when you were wearing bags on the head. And I mean, after one season, y'all putting the bags on, come on, man. Discuss the Montreal screw job tonight. Also, did you see the Andrew Tate video I sent? No, I didn't see the Andrew Tate video. I don't know when you sent that, but no, I didn't get a chance to check that out. I don't know what day you actually sent that. So yeah, I'm not sure, but I'll check it out soon. I'll check it out. Which makes it even worse. He really tried to place those losses on his $20 million quarterback. Sad stuff, man. Watch the Bucs game again and see how many times Mike T or Andrew was open underneath. Hit that like button, y'all. Who that TJ? Shaking my head. At least start Hill over Dalton and keep the fans excited and give the team a spark. Yeah, I agree with that. You know, like I'm being real. You know, like not the big. I'm gonna be honest with you. Not the biggest advocate for Taysom Hill being a quarterback, but I agree with you. You know, like you obviously see that it's not working with Dalton, and you know you got Winston that's incapacitated right now. You know, like he's not available to play, so. Why not go with Taysom? You know, why not try to give him an opportunity? And, you know, we'll see where it goes. You know, the only thing I feel bad about is regardless to how Taysom plays, like if he comes out there and he plays well, I still don't think that it's almost like, man, I hate to compare him to this player, but it's almost like with Tim Tebow. Like you remember Tim Tebow led, you know, I don't say he led, but he helped the Denver Broncos make the playoffs. And, you know, he still ended up getting shipped out. I mean, even though he got replaced by Payton Manning, but I feel like it was pointless. You know, like it would have been anybody. It ended up being Payton Manning, but it probably would have ended up being any other quarterback that was available at the time. And I feel like it's the same way with Taysom. Like Taysom at this stage of his career, nobody's ever going to give him a fair shot at being a quarterback. You know, Taysom got a little bit of that, you know, of that Jameis Winston type scrutiny too. You know, like if Taysom comes out there and he has a good game, then people still gonna kind of poo-poo on it and talk about how he's not a quarterback and stuff like that. So I just feel like they're not going to give him a fair shake. And honestly, at this stage of your career, I mean, I don't understand why would you? Like, I understand you want to be a quarterback, but at least you playing. Like, if you was to go to a team and try to be a starting quarterback and you lose out, you're going to end up like holding a clipboard for the entire season. Nobody's going to even try to tap into your talent and your abilities. So I just think that, you know, at this stage, even though it may suck and it may not be the direction you want to go in, but Taysom Hill has made a whole bunch of money in the league being the type of player that he is. And also he has opened up a lane for a lot of these other guys to come in that may not be able to be as good at their respective position, but teams are able to find ways to get them involved. So Ian Book would have have this team rolling. Oh man. Look.
Hell no. To the no. Hell to the no.
All black quarterback is healthy. Not Jameis. Let Digger keep his Lord can at home. Yeah, man, I'm done. Yeah, I'm done with that. We already had the Mike Dickey experience. We had the Mike Dickey experience in 2022. Do you believe the Saints will release Michael Thomas after the season due to his $25 million a year salary and also due to lack of availability? I don't think they're gonna release him because that's a heck of a cap hit. But I do look at them asking him to restructure his contract. I do see him doing that. Look, I don't know, man. You know, to me, it just seemed like the relationship between the Saints organization and Michael Thomas is not that strong. You know, it's not that strong. The way that, you know, he retweets, you know, information about how other teams practice, you know, injuries and how they handle it. You know, it seemed like to me like he's not happy with the practices of the Saints organization. He's not very happy about the medical stuff. So I don't know how you can repair that. I really don't. I really don't. So I don't know. You know, I don't know how you can actually fix this. It wouldn't be surprised to me if they ask him to take a pay cut and he doesn't take it. They probably end up releasing him then. You know, but I do not believe the Saints are going to keep him on this roster with the same you know, numbers that he has contractually, because the injuries happen in the NFL, but this is a production-based business, and if you're not being productive, then, you know, teams feel like they're wasting their money, fair or unfair. So I don't know. You know, I don't know how you can fix this. I really just feel like I don't feel like you can fix it. Like him being that open about, you know, and retweeting that, and we all know the power of the retweet. I mean, look at Kyrie Irving, right? If you retweeting, that means that, you know, you supporting that, or you got a problem with, you know, something that's related to the same situation. And obviously, Josh Allen was talking about the medical staff, and we all know the history of the medical staff when it comes to the Saints and Michael Thomas and some of the things that happened. So when I see fans still suggesting moving away from Mike T when his contract has been explained over and over again. Yeah, I mean, look, I just think that people want to see this dude play, and he hasn't played, and now it's like, man, get this dude out of my face. But look, the dude is a talented guy when he's playing. Like, it's unfortunate that all these things happen, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to be hurt, but I just think that dude just not happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he just not happy. I don't know if I think he like his teammates. I think he likes some of the coaches, but I just don't think that he's really just has that love for New Orleans, you know what I'm saying? Like you have like some of these other players. Like, and I just think that maybe that's an issue, and it will continue to be an issue. All right, because I mean, I thought it was solved once Dennis Allen went out to California and talked to him. But when you start retweeting stuff about medical stuff and all these different things and co-signing when guys like, man, shouts out to the medical team, it's kind of hard for me to say, well, he's all in. I don't know how you can fix that. Josh says, bro, y'all just be saying anything in the comments. Be more realistic. Oh, yeah, it was a bad look. I do appreciate his honesty, though. Look, I ain't got no problem with that. Like, I'm for the players, because I just feel like sometimes we just back organizations way more because they have the power to wake the mass media up, and they also have the power to put the mass media to sleep. And they put their information out about these players. You know, organizations put this out, give it to these media people to create hit pieces on these guys and make us not like these guys. Like, I don't know Michael Thomas. Like, I don't know him. You know, I don't know him, never met him, you know, but I do understand, like, injuries happen in sports. And I do feel like, you know, sometimes, you know, us as fans, we're mad at the situation, more so mad at the player. Like, we're mad that he's not playing. I don't think anybody has an issue with him as a person. But I just don't feel like he's happy. Like, I don't feel like Michael Thomas is happy being with the New Orleans Saints. I don't think that he trusts the medical staff, which he shouldn't. Like, to be honest with you, he shouldn't. And I don't think that's something that can be repaired. I don't. No matter who comes in, like, it can be, I don't know, Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, he bring anybody up in that thing, but I mean, it's still going to be a level of skepticism when it comes to, believing what these people are trying to tell you, even if it's in your best interest. TJ, my brother, how you doing, man? Them squirrels coming out the trees. Did that squirrel say book? That was more of a joke, man. Josh is like when I hit the Bishop Bowinkle. So he comes up with these different scenarios that he knows that I'm a trigger the Bishop. So it's more like a troll more so than his actual beliefs. Let's see. Dwayne said he's right. The medical staff is garbage. Then we just fire our medical staff. Yeah, last year. Brandon says, I hope the O-line is healthy this Sunday. That guy that did the low snap last week scares me. He's too new. Well, Andrews, I mean, I don't think he practiced yesterday. I got to see if he practiced today, but he was sick. So, hey, you might be down to your third string center. Ain't that crazy? And you going up against the greatest defensive player of the modern era. Good luck with all that. Read a few more, then we're going to get up out of here, folks. I like when we put Ruiz at center. It seemed more comfortable there, in my opinion. No, I disagree. Leave him where he at, man. Cesar Ruiz has definitely changed the narrative. I'm happy for the guy. He's really living up to his potential as being a guard. And I think he needs to stay right there. So let's not disrupt that. And because, soon as Cesar Ruiz get at center and he getting beat, then all of a sudden here come the people out here want to bash the guy, not looking at the fact that that's not his primary position anymore. He's not in college anymore. He played center at Michigan. He gets to the league. They move him over to right guard, and he's been playing really well. So I wouldn't want to disrupt that either. I wouldn't want to disrupt that. And if they're going to disrupt it, I don't want to hear anything about Cesar Ruiz playing center. I don't. I think about it like this. He's hurt and always hurt. Stop wasting the team's money straight up. I don't think he wants to waste the team money. I really don't. I don't think this dude won't waste the team money. I just think that it's just been some bad luck. He knows we could use $15 million investing somewhere. If you're not playing, at least help out instead of tweeting. I agree with that though. That you haven't, man, look, I understand, the money funny, you know what I'm saying? You don't want your money funny and your change strange, but you're not going to get this. You're not going to get the type of money, even if they restructure your deal, you're not going to get that money from nobody else because the other teams, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to trust you to be able to be there all 17 games. So it might be in your best interest to do so, even if, you restructure your deal and, maybe, you take, let's just say, for example, you have another good year and you're able to go out there and work something out in free agency, you work a deal out like that or something. You got to be able to put forth something for people to be on people's mind, because as of right now, you look like you damaged goods. 2 straight years you on IR ending your season. So maybe something he needs to think about. Is Tyron a new Jairus Byrd, TJ? No, because Jairus Byrd didn't play at all for the most part. We talking about somebody that didn't play. At least Tyron out there, and he has 2 interceptions. The only 2 this team has this season. He hasn't been happy since Drew retired. It's the Saints medical staff hiring, says Dr. Quinn, medicine woman. I don't know. You got to ask Sully about that one. Not going to lie, I'm not sold on Penning. He fought teammates during training camp, but got injured and tossed around his first game against another team. I don't know about getting tossed around. I mean, he graded out pretty well. He struggled in pass protection in the first game versus the Houston Texans, but he graded really high. He graded so high at run blocking that he graded high overall, right? So, and then the next week he played better in pass protection. So, look, bruh, I feel like this, Jared. As soft as these boys have been playing all season, as much as we talk about this team need a shot in the arm, they need some swag, they need some confidence. Having a guy like Trevor Penning on this team the worst thing in the world. These guys been playing soft all season long. What are dogs at? Who a dog out there that you seen? Probably Alante Taylor. They're probably the only guy I see out there with some dog in him, right? The rest of them guys just out there. So Trevor Penning actually being out there playing and, maybe he might, maul a guy, or, get a 15-yard penalty. But guess what, man? Guess what? I ain't got no problem with that because I want my offensive lineman nasty. I don't want my offensive lineman politicking and shaking hands and kissing babies and whatnot. So I have no problem with that. Like, look, I don't want that, right? I want a guy to be able to give a dude a little bit of extra. I ain't got no problem with that, especially on a team with a bunch of, not too many guys with the dog mentality. So I'll take it. I'll take it any way I can get it. TJ, do you think we need to clean house on the whole coaching staff or just DA? The only person I'd be willing to keep is Chris Richard. I keep Chris Richard. I think Ryan Nielsen probably going to end up going somewhere else. He probably get an opportunity to coach defensive exclusively or something like that. Or heck, he might even end up, being a coach somewhere. So I would keep Chris Richard, and everybody else they can pick up their local classifying. Seeded for teammates, no one said nothing. Penny about to be the new Turley. I ain't got no problem with that. Penny improved every week. He got better in every aspect of his game before being hurt in the preseason final. Even the last game, even the last play that got him hurt, he was the lead blocker and mauled somebody and allowed Dwayne Washington to get into the end zone. Like, so dude is a beast, man. Like, I understand, like, you talking about fighting and all that kind of stuff there, but hey, fight all you want to. You know what I'm saying? Like, fight the player like you fight the devil. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? As long as you have some dog in you and as long as you're out there being productive, I have no problem with that. But thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. Really do appreciate it. Shouts out to everybody listening around the country, around the world. Thank you all so much. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. 184 people watching this right now. I ask that you hit the like button. Previous episodes available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. And also you can check me out on Facebook, search The State of the Saints podcast. And if you want to follow and interact with me, you can always do so on Twitter at TJAY Jones 8. That's TJAY Jones 8. Till next time. All I got to say is